This racing update is brought to you by Bet365, the world's favourite online betting brand.
Chances are you're about to lose.
Of course, a big day ahead today. Will Alligator Blood win the Weight for Age Championship of Australia as he lines up in the Cox Plate for Jerry Harvey and Gai Waterhouse?
Meanwhile, Tom Kitten will start as a short price favourite in the Spring Champion Stakes at Royal Randwick. Daily Telegraph journalist Shayne O'Cass joins us from the newsroom. We're going to have a look at Sydney in just a tick, but Cox Plate Day, how do you see it going?
Yeah, morning Tim, morning Julie. Well, it's one of those days, isn't it? Cox Plate Day, Derby Day, Everest Day, Melbourne Cup Day. You think about them for the whole year. And look, I think it's brought together a pretty good field. All the interest, I would imagine, is at the top and bottom. And of course, with Alligator Blood there in the middle, particularly at the top there, Tim, with this Hong Kong horse, Romantic Warrior. Look, it's been a pretty checkered build-up to the race. He missed a trial in Hong Kong because of a typhoon. And then he obviously came to Australia. He was extremely underwhelming at his first run here. But there was improvement expected, as James McDonald pointed out before the race, but he'd have to improve quite a bit because this is a red-hot field. The trainer says he's 90 to 95%. Whether that's good enough to beat a Cox Plate field, we'll find out today. But look, interesting 12 horses, only 6 of them have raced at Moonee Valley, so 6 haven't, and only 3 of those 6 that have been there have won. So it's a very tricky track. A lot of great horses have won a Cox Plate, but a lot of good horses have been beaten by the layout and how the race is run. So usually the best horse wins. I had a look at a stat this morning, guys. 41% of favourites win the Cox Plate. So if you're backing Romantic Warrior on Bet365, I think he's about $3.60. So you've got a 41% chance of winning.
Can Alligator Blood deliver Gai Waterhouse her first Cox Plate?
Well, he's such a bulldog, isn't he, Julie? And he's got a great pattern like most of the Gai Waterhouse, going back to Tommy Smith sort of horses do. They race up on pace. They're incredibly hard to get past. He's a lot like Desert War, one of Gai's old warriors back in the past, because sometimes he can make the running if he has to, but if he's not, he'll take over at the turn when all the pressure's applied, and you know he won't lie down. So if Romantic Warrior or any of these 3-year-olds are going to get past him, they're really going to have to dig deep, because this is one horse that is absolutely primed and he doesn't like losing.
Jules had a chat with Zach Lloyd. We just heard that wonderful little yarn. He's on militarised. I tell you what, he can ride.
It's incredible, great story there on Zach. I was looking at his stats. His first runner was at Dalby in Queensland 3 years ago. It actually won. Zach's had more rides at Nanango than he's had at Moonee Valley, so that's a big test. But you've got to think from his point of view, he's ridden in an Everest, and now he'll be riding in a Cox Plate. So as he said, it's not a fluke. He's got 2 of the biggest stables supporting him, and look, he'll do a great job on militarised. The horse is a real chance. I mean, if you take out the Caulfield Guineas run, he won 2 legs of the Triple Crown. He won the Golden Rose. He's by done deal, so he's going to stay. And he's got no weight on his back. 3-year-olds don't win the Cox Plate every year, but they've got a very good record of running a place. So, yeah, I could imagine if it gets tight, militarises, he's either going to be in the finish or he could actually win. I mean, with that weight and his class.
Jar Moreira has spoken so highly of this colt as well, but when did a 3-year-old last win the Cox Plate?
Well, you have to go back to Seamus Award back in 2003. So You Think won a Cox Plate. Savabeel won a Cox Plate. So they have been very high-class horses. Admittedly, Seamus Award was a maiden, but he was still a pretty good horse. Whether militarises up in sort of that level, well, we'll find out what he does after that today. But look, the weight advantage is hugely significant. I mean, they are racing proven seasoned runners, but you don't know where they're going to end up in the next few years' time. So 49 at this point in time might be a luxury.
We're going to be live at the Rosehill Gardens next week. No doubt you'll be there with us for Golden Eagle Day. What about today's Spring Champion Stakes Day in Sydney?
Yeah, well, the Spring Champion's always been a good guide to the Derby, but it's also the culmination of the staying races for 3-year-olds in Sydney. The classic races always throws up a good winner. This year, most people are expecting Tom Kitten to win, and it would be good to see the horse actually break through, because he's been terribly unlucky. He's got a pattern where he goes a long way back, and he needs a very good ride. And I'm not saying that he hasn't got the good rides, but the timing just hasn't been right on the horse. And look, the big problem with him today potentially is barrier 1. You'd prefer 1 at the 2,000 metre start than, say, 20. But by the same token, for a horse who needs clear running and has to make a good sustained run at the finish, it's going to be a little bit of an issue maybe for Adam Hieronymus to get him home. But he's the best horse in the race, and he really deserves this. I think I'd like to see him win.
We also have the $2 million invitation. Kathy O'Hara has just been in such great form. But looking back, Kerrin McAvoy, he's won the first 2 runnings of this race, so he's eyeing his 3rd straight invitation, the $2 million man there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's brought together a great field there, Julie. 2 horses. This is the first time we'll see the Everest form in action since the big race. Alcohol Free and Espiona obviously going around. Alcohol Free will find this a lot different in her favour, stepping up to 1400 with a different tempo. Espiona's record at 1400 is incredible. And you mentioned Kathy O'Hara there. Well, she won the Jockeys Premiership, first female rider to do it back in 2004, 2005. They used to call her the Golden Girl. Tell you what, she's having a golden run at the moment because she's won on Palmetto. She won the Epsom this month as well, and she's riding Alentia, who's a bit of a long shot, but look, Alentia's got the Chris Waller polish. There was a talk that she was Winx-like when she won at Rose Hill first up. It's been a bit disappointing since to some degree, but if Alentia brings her best, look, you don't know, Kathy O'Hara could be in for another $2 million payday here.
Okay, now you've mixed your form with your tipping. You've had some wonderful success and some things that we'll just wipe off the tape. Not that there's tape anymore. Who have you got for us today?
Okay, well, look, I've got to stick with the big race today in Sydney. It's the Invitation. I think it's Espiona's race. She's been fantastic all the way through. She's a little bit, I wouldn't say hot and cold, but the best Espiona would win most races. And look, against the mares today, dropping back from the Everest and stepping up in distance, I think Espiona's going to win.
Shayne O'Cass, we are the winners today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to see you. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Tim.
We'll write that down.
This racing update is brought to you by Bet365, the world's favourite online betting brand.